the joke of the week, the Fed serving the American people. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, November the 2nd. I hope you remember to turn your clocks back. Anyways, we had, of course, last week, markets were relatively flat, although there was some action. But we'll get to that in our market report. But at the end of the day, we had the FOMC Fed meeting on Wednesday. And of course, in his speech, four times, Jerome Powell stated that we are serving the American people. And I go, bullshit. You're not serving anybody but the extremely wealthy, the banks, and you're fucking the American people, which is an absolute fact when you look at real facts. Okay, the real fact is that the Fed is encouraging banks not to loan money and paying them to keep their money so that they can try to keep this economy under control, which they can't because they refuse to let the free markets trade. The discount rate that they lowered once again does not have to translate to you or me. It translates to those who have lots, okay, that they are assured to get paid and have enough collateral. It is not, there is no law that states that the Federal Reserve banks have to pass that savings on to the consumer. And as you've noticed, since Wednesday, the 10-year notes have gone straight up. So once again, not necessarily a benefit. So why the markets got so excited about it, I have no idea. But they talked about quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. I go back to what we talk about all the time here is what is wrong with the free market. Okay. The free market will determine what prices should be, not some imbecile or moron at the Federal Reserve. Yes, they're highly educated, but whether it be the idiots at the Federal Reserve or whether it be the president wanting lower rates, it doesn't matter. The rates will be decided by the supply and demand of money and who needs it and what they're willing to pay for it. So once again, all you've done is artificially potentially stimulate a market, and there shouldn't be a balance sheet the way that they have it. We should have a market that is fluid, which is not fluid when you have the Federal Reserve putting themselves in the middle of it, trying to control inflation, trying to control other things, and they have not done a very good job at either. Okay, and this goes back to the history of the Federal Reserve, but it really goes back, if you've noticed, the debt has really accelerated, and the problems really started in the Alan Greenspan era. So it's that we have a very, very much of a K-shaped economy, which means that the upper 10 to 20% are flourishing and having the time of their lives, and the bottom 80 are having troubles. And of course, it goes into the amount of layoffs that we're seeing. You've got UPS, Amazon, Ford, General Motors, Paramount, and others laying off people, Target. Okay. Now think about UPS and Target laying off people into the Christmas season. That's even a more interesting statement to what the overall economy is. We have rising defaults. Okay. Now, again, if people are defaulting, that means that the bank's got some problems too. So once again, we are getting false information from a source that is absolutely clueless on how the free market works. I think it's problematic. That's my opinion. The Fed's focus will be on jobs growth. Well, one of the problems you have when AI is becoming so prominent is that most jobs that can be done through AI are, and those jobs are not coming back. So where does that leave us at the end of the day? That leaves us in a very problematic area because again, the Fed can't control the job market. Okay, they can't even control themselves. How are they going to control the job market? So once again, we get involved in these things. The government itself is a total shithole disaster. Okay, and the shutdown we should stay shut down forever. But politicians, whether they be Republican or Democrat, don't give a shit. Okay, you see that by the amount of debt that is created. Okay, and remember, I tell you this all the time. Government doesn't make money, government makes debt. Okay, that is we, the taxpayer, get to pay that debt. And I think that that's wrong and criminal, and certainly not something that I would choose for. I don't know who in their right mind would choose for. But, anyways, the Fed, bullshit. That's all I can tell you. They should be ended. Ron Paul is right. And if you look back, you'll see that I have a pretty good shot at this. Uh, Trump hails amazing Xi meeting. Trade concessions, U.S. soybean farmers win. China eases rare earth controls. Well, I call bullshit. Look, at the end of the day, we don't like China. China doesn't like us. China wants to take our position as the world's leader. And we have to do everything in our power to stop it, because if you don't, you're going to have a communist government here as well. Certainly, it is the tariffs are fine, but there's obviously a lot of court battles. And why the courts have decision here, I don't know. But again, this is something that will play out over time. We're going to give Ukraine another 2 billion in U.S. weapons. Come on, come on, America. That's enough. Okay, this has got to end. And of course, the defense contractors don't want it to end because they just keep making money, and they keep making our money. This is again goes back to the problem. They keep taking our money because the government supplies it, but who pays for it? You and me, the taxpayer. Okay. The Social Security COLA, cost of living, in 2025, 2.8%. Is that enough? It's nowhere near enough based on the damage of what the Federal Reserve is doing, based on true inflation. 2.8% you can wipe your ass with, okay? Because the true increase should be 5 or 6 or 7%, okay? Because just to keep up with the cost of inflation, okay? And of course, that goes into, which will be our commentary today, but the SNAP cards, okay? How come you always hear about Social Security running out of money, but you never hear of welfare programs running out of money? You tell me that, okay? You and me, pay for our own Social Security through working through every year of your working life. You tell me why my program that I paid for is going to run out of money, but a program that has nothing to do with me is not. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But there's the SNAP cards. There are 42 million SNAP cards out there. Okay. And I would venture to say that over 50% are illegal. But we'll talk about that in our commentary. And lastly, Maduro urgently sinks military aid from Russia and China with U.S. bullseye on Venezuela. Listen, Chavez and Maduro are two of the biggest criminals ever. They have destroyed Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the few countries in the world that could have lived and as a socialist and given everybody money with the amount of oil they had, but they fucked that up too. And now they're going to Russia and China. Not a good situation. Okay, we need to get this under control. Or as Barney Fife used to say, we said nip it in the bud. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, November the 2nd. We're going to step out here for a break. We'll be back with our market report right after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. What's up, kids? Well, of course, we have sponsors for the program, and at the end of the day, they are brokerage sponsors and partners. And I have other brokers, just to give you full disclosure, but these are the two that I recommend for equities, options, TRADIER Brokerage. It's $10 a month, saves me over $100,000 a year in commission. Okay. Again, why would I pay somebody else to do the same job? Okay, they all clear somewhere through the same end. So again, TRADIER Brokerage, plus all of our automation is done through TRADIER Brokerage. So that's where my hedging program is done. That's where everything else is done. You got to check them out. Their information is on the bottom. And of course, Capital Trading Group for futures and commodities. Again, I always recommend you can trade futures, have a futures account broker. Trade equities, have an equities broker. Everybody needs at least two. But anyways, CTG is partners with us in a lot of products. So again, I think it's great. They have great customer service, so check them out. And of course, our new adventure, the Joy of Mom, which we're investors in and partners with. But the Joy Mom, a website for moms and for help and for helping all kinds of things. And certainly there's a new mobile app. If you take the time to download it and check it out and give us your opinions on it, we'd love to hear. And of course, our high school program, which we're trying to help with financial literacy for our kids. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and of course, our market report. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, November the 2nd. And of course, markets had some wild action this week with the Fed, with the earnings from Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, Coin, Meta, all kinds of stuff going on. And of course, it was pretty wild, especially Wednesday. You had a market that was way higher, went way lower, came all the way back. I don't know. All I can tell you is that I don't predict markets or tops or bottoms, but I do think the top is in now. That would be my opinion. That's what I'm going to tell my people. Again, doesn't mean we're going to do anything about it, but that's what I do kind of see. And again, I'm not predicting. I don't want anybody to start selling everything. And besides the fact that, just so you know, full disclosure, even if I knew it was the top, I wouldn't be selling my own equity positions. I would just be hedging them, which is what I do. But I think there's a lot of warning signs, and I think the drop off in volume again, especially early in the week when there was no volume. I mean, the Monday and Tuesday were volume like we haven't seen for 4 or 5 months, that low. And Thursday, Friday were a little bit better, and then of course both days were slightly down. But at the end of the day, again, we're not predicting. I think there's too many warning signs. I think the Federal Reserve is a piece of shit and has no idea what to do. I think inflation is out of control. I think we're in a K-shaped economy. So that and many other reasons, I don't believe that things look very good. But again, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm going to just tell you where we stand and what we're doing. The dollar, which is trying to push back to par once again. We don't have a position. We don't trade the dollar, not because we don't like the dollar. It's because we'd have to pay the exchange too much to trade it. Not a good enough product to waste. In the meantime, if we did trade it, we would be short. The euro currency, it was lower last week, which we were short, and then are finally flat. Bonds and notes continue to go down. Okay, we have no position, but that means interest rates are going higher. So right after the Fed cut, the interest rates continue to go up, and the futures continue to go down. So you tell me. Okay, Bitcoin had a fairly mediocre week, but we actually got long Bitcoin on Thursday, so it was good for the rally. Gold, silver, and platinum, they're kind of consolidating down here at levels where I think there's probably a little bit more room to go on the downside. Look, I like them a lot, and I think everybody should own some, but I do think there's still a little bit more room to the downside. I think that again, you have too much participation of a chase. Okay, again, it's when the Costco was selling, and we talked about it, and all this other stuff. Look, gold and silver are great assets to own, gold, silver, and platinum. I just think that there's probably going to be a little bit better buying opportunity. And I don't mean a lot. I would suspect there's another maybe 3, 4, 5% lower. Copper continues to churn up near that 520 level. We have no position. Grain markets look like they have found some bottoms and have started to rally up sharply, especially soybeans. I don't own it. We don't have a position. I do own some. I do think it's a chance to buy some here. I look for a bigger rally. Cattle markets, again, appear to have put a top in, and hogs, we're looking for a bottom to be a buyer. Nat gas, we are going to be short tonight, okay, as after the big move it had on Friday. And of course, crude oil, we are long. At the end of the day, again, it's interesting how slow the markets are in the fourth quarter of the year here. And it's kind of distressing, but we'll see. We've got basically, from the way I look at it, about 5 weeks left of trading. The week between Thanksgiving doesn't count, and the 2 weeks after Christmas and New Year's don't count. So, in the meantime, just be careful. I don't think there's any reason to get too involved or try to predict too much here. And we talk every week or every day, depending on which part of my stuff you listen to. But we'll have plenty of time to get involved when it is time. In the meantime, just be careful and understand that these markets are driven by the money and by those who got it. And right now, it's being driven by the Federal Reserve and trying to be held up. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, November the 2nd. We're going to step out here for a final break and come back with our commentary after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back. Bubba's Bottom Line. And of course, we always talk about a little bit about our commentary. And our commentary today is regarding the SNAP cards, the food stamps program, which again, I don't think that it's a program. I think it's a great program for those who need, and I have no problem with helping those who need. But the problem with government programs, the problem with the people that use them, the problem with the way that we do everything is a much bigger problem. 42 million people have the SNAP card. Now, based on that, that is for essential food only. Food, let's say food, bread, and eggs. Food, bread, and eggs. Yeah. They are using them for tobacco, for alcohol, for drugs. There are people that are selling those SNAP cards for 30 cents on the dollar on the black market. That is not what that program is supposed to be. It is my opinion that if you're going to be on welfare and you're going to have food stamps or the SNAP program, that you should have to go through drug testing. Okay. That is my opinion. You may disagree, but we would save, as Americans, as taxpayers, we would save a fortune. We'd have to pay more in the beginning to hire people to do the drug testing, but we would save a fortune because, as I said, I would suggest that half of those people that are on the SNAP program are on there illegally because people figure out a way to beat the system. And furthermore, there are a lot of illegals, immigrants on that system. And again, I will ask the question, why should you and I, the Americans, pay for food and housing and hospitalization for those that don't belong here in the first place? Okay. So I think that the SNAP program and any other welfare program to the right people can be very helpful. But the programs as they are run today are nothing more than criminal enterprises and not for the American people and basically cost you and me a fortune. And we're not really helping anyone. It's like a lot of the charities that people run that 99 cents on the dollar goes in the pocket of the charity and 1% it goes, the 99% goes in the pocket of the person running the charity, 1% goes to the actual charity itself. To me, no bueno, not good. And it bothers me. And I hope that it bothers you too, because I think the only way we can stop it is to bring our voice to the model. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line. Have a great weekend, everybody. And if anybody's interested in my football, which I don't even know if I'm interested in, but I like Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Kansas City. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you later. Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday. Take care.